weeknight, we are going to make some sesame chicken with Spam fried rice, and then we're going to bake up a breakfast loaf for tomorrow, which is filled with pecans, walnuts, or sunflower seeds, pumpkin seeds, cranberries, blueberries, and cherries. So just a nice hearty breakfast loaf. Slide this guy out. Give it a nice kind of score here. More like got to cut through those nuts and seeds. This is one of my mom's favorite because it is such a hearty one. I really do pack it full of nuts. As you can see, you can actually see them kind of through that lamination there. But it's so hearty and filling. Go through this guy. And then I think we can probably do a couple little more scores since it's cooperating a little bit. On there. And the fruit in here, it's dried fruit, which actually holds up really, really well in this breakfast loaf over like using the fresh fruit on there. But so delicious and hearty. There. Okay. Pop that little bubble. And then we're going to pop this in here. My oven is nice and toasty hot. Had it preheating. Go. We'll put our lid on and we're going to bake for 500 at 500 for 20 minutes, and then we'll take the lid off and we'll bake for 20 minutes at 450. And then this will be just a wonderful breakfast. You pop it in the toaster, put a little butter on it, a little jam. So good.
Can you go over the flavor of sourdough?
So it is just a traditional base of my bread. So my traditional, loaf where I use, 500 grams bread flour, 100 grams sour or like starter, about a tablespoon of salt, and like 375 grams of warm water. So really basics, starting things. But then during the lamination stage, that's when I add in the pecans, walnuts, pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, cherries, blueberries, and craisins. And those add a lot of flavor. The dried fruit really add a bit of sweetness, and you just wouldn't expect that they would make the bread sweeter than it is, but it does. Okay, let's get our chicken prepped up on here. So I'm just going to do a little, we can put this over here. We'll work on our chicken first, then we'll start working on our fried rice. So for this, I had lots of leftover rice. So we made galbaki galumpki is what I always called it, but it's called galopki the other day. And I had leftover rice from that. And then yesterday we made our Alaskan salmon, which I had some leftover rice from as well. And I was like, oh, I have enough leftover rice to make Spam fried rice, because you never want to use like rice that's cooked this, right away for fried rice. Otherwise, it makes a really mushy fried rice. So day-old or 2-day-old rice works well because then it will absorb your flavors and it won't be mushy. So we're going to prep up our chicken, and then we'll make a kind of a cornstarch and flour dredge for it. And we'll dip our chicken in egg and then into that, and we'll fry it off so that we have these nice kind of crispy chicken pieces. And then we'll make a lovely kind of a honey sesame sauce for it to kind of coat it, and with some sesame seeds and green onions. We're going to cut up our chicken. I don't want my chicken to be too big because, again, we're going to coat it up with everything, which will give us, a nice little, we'll make every piece a little bit bigger. But roughly try to get all of your chicken about the same size. If you happen to see any fat, cut it off, because that will just be rubbery. It's not going to cook up nice here, but nice kind of smaller chunks of chicken for this. I'm using chicken breasts, but you could also use like the boneless, skinless thighs. Those work really great for this as well. here. And for our kind of our coating that we're going to do it, we're not really going to add a lot of spices to it. We'll give just a little hint of garlic salt in it, but most of our seasoning is going to come from the sauce that you coat it with. So you don't want to add too much spice to it, because then you can get overpowered with the whole kind of sauce coating. And there we go. And I will say, like, this was just 3 chicken breasts here, probably around 2 pounds, maybe, a little over, but it's going to create a lot of chicken, a lot of sesame chicken here. And again, don't leave your pieces of chicken too big, because by the time you're done coating them up, they'll get bigger. And you want them to be bite-sized pieces, because you're not going to be using a knife to cut your chicken in half when you're eating it. Let's get this guy. There we go.
You have a question. Will this sauce be a stickier one?
Yes, we will use some cornstarch to make a bit of a slurry to add it to it, so that it kind of thickens up, and then it will kind of cling to the chicken pieces to it. So yes, it will be a stickier base sauce on there, which will just be lovely. Sesame chicken is one of, like, if I ever go get takeout, it's one of my favorites. I just absolutely love it. I kind of love, it's strange, because I either go for that sesame chicken, or I go for the Mongolian beef or the Mushu pork. Though they're 3 very different, but those are my 3 favorite ones that I like from like those little fast like takeout places. Just love them.
What's your favorite meal?
My favorite meal is probably ravioli. I do love I love pasta. You just give me a good old pasta. I mean, I love it. I mean, I love soups. I always eat soups, and I absolutely love them. But my favorite meal to cook and to eat is probably ravioli, because I think, it's ravioli's, it's a labor of love. It's a lot of work, but I love it. It's delicious, especially when I make, the homemade pasta, the homemade filling, and everything. It's so delicious, but a lot of work. Especially, it's not like, if you're making it for 1 to 2 people, that's a lot easier. But for us, I'm typically making it for 9 people, which is a crowd, and takes a lot longer. Let me wash up my hands here. And now that we've got all of our little chicken pieces here, we're going to make our dredge to put all the chicken pieces in. And we're going to do a mixture. Let me grab my flour. Of flour and cornstarch. I have a good amount, so I'm going to use about a cup of flour. I'll do a little more. And we're done with this. I'll move it over here. And then we're going to use about a half a cup of cornstarch. And you can do all cornstarch, and that will give you I like the mixture of cornstarch and flour. One, because you don't always have a lot of cornstarch on hand. So you don't have to go heavy on using like a cup and a half of cornstarch, but that kind of mixing the flour and the cornstarch together gives you that lighter batter. A cornstarch all will be even lighter on it, but the mixture works well. I have to shake more. And grab a fork. There we go. And got this mixed up. We'll add just a nice little shake of garlic salt in here. Not much, probably. Again, I don't want to do too much of a seasoning in it, because we're going to add, it's going to go on, but like a teaspoon, just a little light hint of it. The garlic will give it a little bit of a coloring as well. but very, very light because this isn't going to be seasoned. It's the sauce that you coat it in that's going to have that seasoning. Okay, let me check. I don't remember. Did we set the timer on for? We did. I don't know why. For some reason, I was like, did we set the timer on our sourdough bread? And I was like, I don't remember doing that, but we did. I did. My mind. It's because it's all in this wishful thinking because the world is going crazy here because there's like it's all spreading that we might have 17 inches of snow this weekend, which is like unheard of here. And, we live just outside of Nashville, and Tennessee doesn't ever get snow. I mean, we freak out when there's a prediction of snow. And in the middle, my daughter had soccer practice, and I was like, okay, while she's at practice, I will swing by the store and just grab a few things. I just needed to pick up like some butter and a couple like 3 items, and I'm in there, and I tell you not, panic shopping. There is hundreds of people there. It took me forever to find a shopping or a parking spot, but people are buying like everything. It was insane. I think I might just need 3 eggs, but I'll hold this one to the side. But crazy people, they always sell out of milk and bread here. It goes crazy, but normally I was like, oh, I need to stock up for next week in case, we go there, but I didn't have enough time. But I was like, I was already planning to go, grocery shopping for next week earlier because the snow is supposed to hit on Saturday. And I was like, oh, I'll go like Wednesday or Thursday. I won't wait till Friday or Saturday or everything was gone. And I'm like, oh, well, maybe I should have gone today like everybody else because it was already slim pickings there. And I was just like, it was just crazy. It was a madhouse. And people are like, why is it? And I said, oh, they're all getting everything for the snowstorm. Let's mix up our egg. But I'm really hopeful. I'm like fingers crossed because I love a good snowstorm. It's my Iowan roots, I grew up with snow. I love snow. Now, snow as a child is very different from snow as an adult when you actually have to do all the stuff. It's very different. But here, everything shuts down, so you don't have to shovel or do anything like that. That's the nice thing. I don't even own a snow shovel. Okay, we're going to dip our chicken into our egg, and then we're going to go into our flour mixture. So you're just going to kind of coat it up. And then we'll go in here to our flour and cornstarch mixture. And give it a good shake. And go through. And then I'm just going to leave my chicken in here until we're ready to fry it off because I don't want it to like dry out. We're actually just going to plop most of this in here. Coat it up. And then we'll slide it in there. Here. And get these guys. They're kind of slippery. Mix them. And you just want to make sure you really get the way so you don't have 2 pieces or anything like sticking together. So just kind of toss every so often, and then we'll give our hands a good once.
You have a couple questions about on this one. Why do you do the egg first and then the?
So this is when I'm doing kind of a breading for like an Asian style chicken. I don't do the double one because I want it to be more of a lighter type style. I'm using cornstarch in here, which is again more, it's going to mimic more of a tempura batter. So a lighter one. And so again, it's just to have kind of a thinner but lighter, crispier batter on it. Not a thick. Because when you have like that, those the sesame chicken, orange chicken, honey chicken, it's not a super dense and thick batter on your chicken. It's lighter. And so just doing the single one on there works really well with it. And if you had to double dip all of these pieces, it would take forever. So this is the easier process for it. As you can see, I've streamlined it. You just kind of dump it and go. There. say? I always say, work smarter, not harder. There, toss this up, get these last little bits in. And a few more. And then we can be at least done with this bowl. And we'll coat it up. So 3 eggs was perfect. That's what I thought. I didn't think, I typically use 1 egg per chicken breast and I had 3, but when you do have bigger fillets and sometimes you need a little bit more, but this worked out perfect. Kind of toss it. Here we go. Make sure I've got it all. And you just want to make sure you don't have any, just sprinkle and twist your fingers through. You could try to do this with some tongs. It's just easier to really get your hands in there. And then you know what you do is you just give them a good scrub when you're done. And then you can use tongs to lift them out. But in this kind of coating process, there's really no way to get around it. Okay. We've got them nice and coated. I'm going to go give my hands a nice scrub. And then we can work on heating up our oil and our fried rice. Just gotta de-batter my fingers. Okay, let's get this.
You have a question? Is the batter seasoned?
It has just a little bit of garlic salt in it, but most of the flavoring is actually going to come from the sesame sauce that we're going to use for it. So you don't actually want to put very much seasoning in here because then you could have the sauce is going to have enough flavor on it. You don't want it to overpower and become too salty. We're going to start heating up our oil so that we can fry our chicken in it. Since I have a good amount of chicken here, I'm going to put a good amount in here because I'm probably going to have to do 3 batches, and I don't want to have to add more oil in and have to wait for it to heat up. So I'm going to put a couple amounts in here so that it should get through 3 rounds. While that's wording, let's grab, I've got my carrots. I'm going to grab some of our veggies, head over there with them to make our spam fried rice. And I need my peeler. We're going to start by sauteing up our veggies, and then we'll add in our rice to kind of cook. We'll get our onions and then our carrots and garlic going, and then we'll throw in our Spam. We've got 1 small onion. You don't need a huge onion for this, but you do want it. Mince it up nice and small because you don't want to have huge onion chunks in there. There. Get both of these. And I kind of do a mixture of butter and oil. I'll saute my veggies up in oil, but when I add my rice in, I'll add in just a little bit of butter. So it kind of gives you the best of both worlds. The oil gives you a little bit better sear on the veggies. You don't have to worry about burning the milk solids, kind of crisp it up nicely. But the butter will give you that nice flavor for the fried rice. So since I have a pretty good sized pan here, I'm going to put in about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. And let's get our onions in here. And grab some tongs, give them a nice toss. And I have my pan kind of cooking over a medium around like a 4.5, 5-ish. And then let's get our carrots here. We'll give them a quick peel, and then I'll probably quarter them and dice them up so we have smaller little carrot chunks that will get a little bit more tender faster. Add a little pop of color. That will be lovely. And I love a great little piece of carrot in my fried rice. You can also add peas, like a spring pea or petite pea. Those are wonderful. I love peas in my fried rice, but I'm not allowed to. Nobody else in my family loves peas like I do. But I think they're delicious. Here. And grab those. And we're going to quarter them so that our carrots, again, will have enough time to get tender during the saute process for this. And then we'll add in eggs. My kids love a really eggy fried rice. So I always do an egg per person plus a few extra because we just love a very eggy fried rice. Whenever we go to a hibachi place, we're always like, when we make it, can we order extra eggs to go into the fried rice? And it's always a weird request, but everyone just seems to really love the hibachi eggs. There we go. And we'll get those in there. Grab this and pop this in the trash.
You have a question? Do you ever cook a Portuguese dish?
I have a couple dishes that are Portuguese, like it's called a caldo verde, which is a Portuguese soup, which I really love. It's delicious. And there's a few little dishes, but not very many of them. But caldo verde is a really delicious soup that I do like to make on there. That's kind of the main dish for it. But I often don't do very many of them. And I know I always say, I'm like, I need to branch out and do a few more different varieties, change it up. Okay, we've got our things. Let's get our garlic minced up. Got my butter. We're going to mince up. While we're doing it, I'm going to mince up both our garlic for this and for our sauce. And we'll give this a good for this. So we'll use some of this in our fried rice, and then we'll save some of this for our sauce that we'll use for our sesame sauce. There we go. So mince it up nicely. And there. Want to let those flavors, the more you mince your garlic, the more flavor you will get out. If you leave it whole, a little bit less. And so I want to really bring out the garlic. And then I'm just going to grab a small little bowl and we'll pop this in here. Let's see. Let me grab one of my little prep bowls. You can save this for when we make our sauce. Put it over there. There we go.
About how much garlic do you think you use in a week?
I use about probably one whole bag, if not more. So this is 6 ounces of garlic. So I would say I probably use more than one bag, maybe like 1.5 bags. I love garlic. I will say if vampires were real, they would never bother my family because between the garlic salt that I use for everything and the fresh garlic, we have no worries. Okay, I feel like our oil should be nice and hot now. So let me grab our things. I'm going to turn it down to about a 5 on there. I'll drop in piece if it sizzles. Yep, perfect. We'll get our chicken here and we're going to let it start to cook up. There we go. And we don't want to crowd it for it. We have, this is again coated our chicken, like our chicken breast that we kind of cubed up. And then we coated it in a mixture of flour and cornstarch, kind of a, 2-to-1 ratio. So we have a cup of flour to a half a cup of cornstarch. And we added just about a teaspoon of garlic salt in there, just a little bit to help it, but not so much to season it, just a little touch. And we're going to give this a nice fry. It will have a very light golden fry to it. Not a super dark coloring because that cornstarch is more of a blonder fry. But we'll fry it on both sides until it's nice and crispy, and then we'll take it out and put our next batch in. Don't crowd it too much because, again, we want them to fry it fairly evenly. So I'm going to have to definitely do a couple batches. Go low and slow. Don't go too high. I'm kind of cooking this over a 5 on here. And as my oil gets warmer and warmer, I will probably bring the temperature down even more. There we go. Should be good for our first round. I'm going to rotate my pan. And I'll know right when it starts to get a light golden crispiness, I should be ready to put in our, flip it over. And since they're smaller chunks, they are going to cook up much faster than if we do a larger piece of chicken, like the tenders or the bigger fillets. Okay, looks like we can add in this garlic. I feel like this bread has been in there forever. I don't think we set the timer. I thought we did, so I think we should pop off that lid. Luckily, this is the second part with the lid on, so it doesn't really matter too much with that on here. Because the lid protects it. But I was like, gosh, it's been a while, but no worries. That's not going to make too much of a difference. So we baked it supposedly, probably a little bit more, but it doesn't make too much because the lid is a protected part of it. But this 25. So honestly, you can bake it for up to 30 minutes with the lid on. And now we're going to take and we're going to bake it at 450 with the lid off for we're going to still do about 20 minutes. It's not going to do that much of a difference here. I'm going to turn my temperature down and we'll set it to 450. I'll take 1 minute off because that oven, that lid protects it for the most minutes or most, going there. I was like, gosh.
And what's in the sourdough?
This is my breakfast loaf. So it has our lots of nuts and seeds. So walnuts, pecans, pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds. And then it also has dried cherries, dried blueberries, and dried craisins. We're going to add in our garlic here. We'll give this a nice little saute up. And we'll add in our carrots. So it's just a really good hearty breakfast loaf. It has those nuts and those seeds and the dried fruit. Gives you a little bit more nutrition than a slice of sourdough, which again is also terrific to have in the morning for breakfast as well. There's really no wrong time to eat a slice of bread, in my opinion. That's my Achilles heel. I love bread. Too much, maybe. There we go. The garlic smells wonderful. Okay, while that's sauteing there, this is looking good. I'll give it a rotate. I always like to rotate my pan just a little bit. We'll flip these in just a second. But we're going to get our special ingredient flipped over or cut up. This is our Spam. Don't knock it until you tried it. I had never had Spam before in my life until, 6 years ago. And I tried it because we had done these universal yum boxes and we had Hawaii. And the dish that they said to try was to make Spam fried rice. It was like the Hawaiian fried rice. And so we tried it and my kids fell in love with it. We loved it. And I have made pretty much fried rice with Spam ever since. And it is delicious. Just adds this savory bit that you just can't compete with. It's like this missing ingredient that you never knew you needed in your life until you did. It's actually one of those things where this is a really easy dish that I can make on our camping trips because I can bring frozen rice in my cooler because it's okay if it de-thaws, and then a can of Spam, and then eggs and butter, and I just fry it over the campfire, and it works really, really well.
Niam sent you.
Oh, well, thank you, Niam. We appreciate that. Before I finish slicing that up, let me get my carrots in here. So we've got our 3 carrots that we peeled and diced, and we're going to let these kind of saute up. And then we're going to cube up our Spam into small pieces. You want them small so that they crisp up, because that crisping up is really what makes them wonderful. Okay. So think about like when if you've seen cubed ham in the store, that's what you want to do to your Spam. You want to cube it. There we go. Okay, we'll have that ready to add in there. I'm going to wash my hands real quick. And then we can flip our chicken because it is probably ready to toss over here. We'll toss all of these. We've got a nice kind of light golden. Now remember, this is going to be a lighter fry because of that cornstarch. It's not going to be a dark fry. But when you actually take it out and it sits to cool, it will actually turn a darker color as it cools. Now, part of that is you're not getting too much. The garlic salt adds a little bit of coloring to it, but there's no sugar or onion powder or any spices in here that can help color it up. And cornstarch is a very, very light coloring. It doesn't turn golden when it cooks, not like flour. So that's why you get a very, very mild color to it when it fries. There we go. Put that guy over. This guy. Now, luckily, it's fairly easy to tell. But as you can see, even when I flip them over and now those exposed parts are already starting to get slightly darker on there. I'm going to grab a plate, and then we'll put some paper towels down so that when we take it out, that paper towels will soak up that extra grease or that oil so that you have just crispy chicken left behind, crispy, crunchy chicken on there.
Mary and Space Glitter.
Oh, well, thank you, Mary and Space Glitter. We appreciate that. There we go. We're going to give this a nice toss. I think our carrots are good. We're going to add in our Spam now, and that can kind of saute together and get a nice kind of crisp up on it. There we go.
Do you have any special plans for meals during the winter storm?
I'm kind of thinking through that because we have some of these universal yum boxes. We have a Germany one and a French one. So I was like, ooh, I'm thinking about I haven't done it in a while, but making homemade like pastries, like croissants and maybe danishes during that time. Because I was like, ooh, French. And then probably doing like a beef bourguignon. And then doing maybe a German meal. I haven't made Spätzle in a very long time, which I really love. So when I lived in Germany with my foreign exchange family, their mother made the most delicious goulash and Spätzle, which is just like a stewed meat over their noodles, which are really strangely made where you squeeze the dough through your fingers over boiling water. So they look really random. But they're delicious. And it was one of my meals it was my favorite meal she made. And so I might do something like that. Or even make like a black forest cake, like a Kirschwald, Schwarzkirschwald cake. So lots of things, lots of things. I'm thinking it through. I've got to kind of finalize, and then I have to go to the store and see what's left because, you know, it might be slim pickings. If I wait until Friday or Saturday morning, I'm going to tell you there will be absolutely nothing. I mean, you'll find the stuff that nobody wants. You know what I mean? You might find like quail eggs. That's typically what you find is the most random, things. So I'm like, as I said, I'm like, gotta go there, find, figure it out, and then I've got to make my plan. I've got to stock up. I was like, told my husband, I was like, oh, I got to make sure I get plenty of milk because I'm going to be making my hot chocolate probably every single day because we're going to play out in the snow because I have the toboggans that I had when I was a kid. We took them from my parents' house because my mom and my stepdad aren't tobogganing anytime soon. And we have a 7-seater toboggan because my mom had 7 kids, and we have a 5-seater toboggan. And so an old school wooden, with the old school toboggan. So we have those, and then we have a couple sleds, and these toboggans are like 30 years old, but they are still amazing and are like some of the best sleds out there. But we have those, and I just have like random like snow gear. My kids, since we don't get a lot of snow, my kids just wear the same. They pass me down. So like my oldest is a girl, so my boys have very pink snow gear that they wear, pink and purple, and they love it all. They're always excited when I'm like, "Ooh, this was Lena's and it was Evie's," and they go through it all because I'm only buying one pair of snow pants, and it's going to go through all of them. After I learned after a while to buy the more neutral colors. I didn't have to get the fluorescent pink every year. I was like, oh, let's stick with the muted, like grays and blacks, it is theirs. But those younger years, it's definitely really bright colors. But we've got all of those for them. So they'll be out there. We'll be playing in the snow. I'll make my specialty hot chocolate, which I'm going to tell you, its secret ingredient is not anything, it's nothing bougie, but it's delicious. It's, maybe I won't tell you. Maybe you'll just have to wait. You're going to just have to wait. I'm going to make a short of it. I'm going to make a hot cocoa bar because I always do it. But it's going to surprise you. I think older generations, they
might need a decoder ring.
They might need a decoder ring. Yes. If you have a decoder ring and if you get that reference, you will know what it is. Makes the best. Got to drink more of it. But I will say it is the best. Let's grab this next round of our chicken in here, crisping it up.
Chad already solved it. Jenny got it first.
Yeah, I knew it. I was going to say, it does. You just use whole milk, Ovaltine, and it makes just the best. It's one of those things where like, who drinks Ovaltine? But for hot cocoa, hot chocolate, I kid you not, it makes amazing hot chocolate. It is so creamy and chocolatey. Now you got to use a little bit more than they suggest, a little extra couple scoops in there. But that's what my kids, they always are. It's better than anything else. And then, you got to coat it with lots of whipped cream, mini marshmallows. Slide through. There we go. Let's get our spatulas. Now we've got this all crisping up. Now, before we add in our eggs here, we've got to add in a little bit of butter because you want to cook your eggs in the butter. And what I like to do is I'm going to push all of my sauteed veggies to one side. That way I can scramble my eggs up. Don't just crack your eggs into it because if you do that, you're going to get like a weird texture on your eggs. So I don't want to take everything out and do everything, but just make a pile over here. These will continue to cook. Put a nice layer of butter down so that you have a nice kind of, non-stick, delicious-y, buttery surface. And then we're going to add ridiculous amounts of eggs because we love a very eggy fried rice. I know one time I didn't have enough eggs and I had to skimp on it and I had only 6 eggs for it. And they were like so sad. They were like, where are all the eggs? And then they were fighting over because they were all like, somebody took all the eggs. Lena took all the eggs. I know she did. And I was like, no, guys, I just didn't have enough eggs for it. But it would have been Lena who took all the eggs if it was. We'll crack them all in and then we'll give them a light scramble. But don't just crack them over your veggies. It won't work. They get really like they just kind of turn to confetti, I should say, like eggfetti. And you want bigger chunks of eggs in here. Rule of thumb is you want to do about an egg per person, and then my family, you add a couple more. There we go. Get my hands a little rinse. I'm going to give a rotate here. And then I'll just kind of pop each yolk. And we'll just do a light scramble on it. Again, the nice amount of butter, because this isn't a non-stick pan, but that good amount of butter will prevent most of it from sticking. But this is the best pan for making fried rice because I've got my good lip on it. And when you make for a crowd, you know, you need a big pan. If you have a really good sized Dutch oven that has that enamel, that works well too. But like this is my big frying pan, my 12-inch frying pan. And while the base of them are very similar, it's just, I need a ridge.
Did you ever see yourself moving to a farm?
You know, I would love a farm and everything like that. And it's one of those things, but I also love where we live. I love our house. I live, you know, I've got this suburban area. I do hope that our goal is one day to get a lake house with a little bit of land and, you know, have kind of one where you could be close enough to visit. But, you know, but I don't know. I like being, you know, kind of close to, you know, society and on there. Farms are hard. They're a lot of work. I think people idolize them, but don't realize how much work they are. And having, you know, I grew up in Iowa. I went back to Iowa for college, and I had a lot of friends who were from farm families and like family farms. And it's no joke. Like you work from morning to night, and it's you got weather, so many things that you have to take an account for. You've got animals that depend on you if you have them, that you can't really take a break from. So there's a lot of work in farms. As I, you know, I have this romantic idealization and I would love to, but then I've got to realize there is reality. I've got to survive with my 5 children, and I already have several animals here. I've got dogs, cats. We have an aquarium that has several fish and 2 African dwarf frogs, and that's already, work. And my kids are always trying to be like, can we get another animal? And I'm like, no.
Judy said that your cheese slicer isn't in your store.
Yes. So my cheese slicer is not in my store because all of my cheese slicers have been gifted to me, mainly from my mom or my friend. Whenever they go to Europe, to Germany or Sweden, they always get me their bougie little cheese slicers there because I'm going to have to say their cheese slicers are just a little bit better there. So yeah, I can't find them here. They're not like English brands. They all have on there. So I don't have them here for them. So I've not been able to find them to be able to put them in there. I mean, like one's literally a moose, but it has no label on it. But yeah, so those I don't have. I told you I have a ridiculous number of cheese slicers. I just got a new one from Sweden there. Okay, Well, let's see. I think we have, let's check on there. It's about 2 minutes left on our sourdough on there, but we can go over there and take a peek because we did kind of pop it in there a little bit. You know, I claim to have set the timer, but you know, sometimes that happens. Let's see.
It's better than that week you kept turning off the oven.
Oh, yeah, that was hilarious. You know what? I think it actually looks pretty good on here. It has a nice kind of golden brown crust on it. Looking gorgeous. So we'll slide this over here. Let me grab my trivet so I don't put it on my cutting board and melt it. Okay, this is our breakfast loaf. We're gonna, if I can grab it. There we go. I can smell the cherries and the blueberries are just wonderful. You've got in there, it's chock full of nuts and seeds. So we've got walnuts, pecans, pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, dried cherries, dried blueberries, and dried cranberries mixed throughout in the lamination process. And then it's just a traditional sourdough base for it. But it is a very hearty sourdough loaf. They're very filling, and it'll be just really perfect for your breakfast, really midday snack, anytime you want, midnight snack. I mean, anytime to eat sourdough is okay. Okay, we get these guys. Finish those off. This next round is almost done sauteing. And then we'll get them off. We have one more.
You have a question? Why do you score the bread?
And I score the bread so that I have a controlled kind of pop on it versus it just naturally ripping. It allows it to expand in a uniform way. Now, again, it's optional. You don't have to score it, but scoring it allows it to expand in the way that you want it to expand versus the way it will expand on its own. There we go. Now we'll mix. Now that our egg has kind of solidified, we can mix it in. There you see. So now you'll have your good chunks. And this is the fun part. Now we get to add in our rice. So you want to use either day or 2-day old rice, not freshly cooked. Freshly cooked will make it mushy. If you don't want to cook up rice the day before, you can get rice from the freezer section. I think Innovation and P.F. Chang's both make freezer rice. That is wonderful. The reason why you don't want to use fresh cooked rice is it will make your very mushy fried rice. So we're going to add this in here and we'll kind of cook it up with there and let me add a bit of butter in here just to melt up because it adds a nice little flavor. You don't need a whole lot. I find I don't add too much in there, about another tablespoon. Just you want a little bit of that butter flavor. But then we'll toss in this out. This is a good amount of rice. We'll spread it around. And then you're going to mix in all of your mixings. And then we'll add in some Japanese barbecue sauce. And we're going to first let it saute and kind of crisp up on the bottom of our pan before we add in our Japanese barbecue sauce. But that is what I'm going to use to season up my fried rice. I don't use soy sauce. I used to use soy sauce, but soy sauce always never had quite the right flavor. It always made it salty and it felt like it was missing something. Switch to Japanese barbecue sauce, which is kind of like a sweet soy sauce, which has like a sweetness to it, which is really, really lovely. And makes the best fried rice now. So we're going to let that rice kind of heat up. We're going to turn it up, let those break apart. Then we'll add in our Japanese barbecue sauce, let it kind of steam up and cook. And then we'll finish it off with some green onions. Okay, these look like they're nice and crispy. They've got a nice kind of golden color to them. There we go. Pop those on here. And again, this has a very light color fry to it because the cornstarch, we don't have any additional spices in there really other than a little bit of garlic salt.
Two-part question. How many kids do you have and what are their ages?
So I have 5 kids, and they range from 15, soon to be 16. And then I have a 14-year-old, a 10-year-old, a 4-year-old, and a 2-year-old. So we've got quite the grouping. Always keep us on our toes. And very different. It's always funny. It's like you have, and we kind of have, it goes girl, boy, boy. And it's definitely an interesting group. Chaos all the time. But it's fun. I love it. We thought we were done after 3, and then, Teddy surprised us during COVID. And then I was like, you know what? Teddy needs a sibling, because you can't have that big of a gap. And we had Jack, and Jack is Jack. A little stinker, but he sure is cute. But naughty. Oh, so naughty. Yeah, he's in that terrible twos right now that has been going on for a while. It started before 2, and I have a feeling it's going to last until after 2. But I think it was because, he was born on Friday the 13th, and I'm not particularly superstitious, but I think it might have something to do with how naughty that kid is. And in October, on top of that. So I really feel like he's super naughty. Okay. Let's get that going. And then once we finish sauteing, I'm going to work up on our sauce to kind of coat that in there. But let's give a flip, a little drizzle. Here we go. And there, break those apart. But you see all of that glorious egg. That's why you want a lot of egg in there. It just makes it so much more delicious. Okay, Japanese barbecue sauce. That is what we're going to season it up with. Simple, easy, but is going to be the world of difference. And you're just going to give about a drizzle over for a little bit. It's probably about a tablespoon or 2 to start with, kind of coat it up, and then you'll just taste for it. It has this sweet and saltiness to it that really gives you that perfect umami flavor to the fried rice that mimics what you get at hibachi. Because you know how they come in and they are not using just soy sauce. They're always like, they've got that crazy bottle and they're squirting it out. I swear, it's their own version of a Japanese barbecue sauce, but delicious.
You go everything that's in your fried rice?
Yeah, so we sauteed up some onions, carrots, fresh garlic. We have Spam, which is our special ingredient, eggs, and then our rice, our like day-old rice. And then we'll add in some green onions, and then our Japanese barbecue sauce, and a little bit of butter, of course. Okay, while that is all cooking off, let's make up our sauce here for our delicious things. We're going to add we'll toast up the garlic to the side to bring out the flavor in the sesame thing, but we're going to make up our delicious thing. So this is going to have a honey base to it, so it's going to be, nice sweetness, but we're going to use some rice vinegar.
Could you cook the chicken at a higher temp?
You could cook the temperature at a higher temp. You just want to make sure that you don't burn it and that you cook it all the way through. So I'm cooking it at about a 5 on there, and it's cooking it fairly quickly for it, but you don't want to burn it, and you want to make sure it cooks all the way through. And as that oil gets hotter, it tends to cook it fairly quickly for it. Okay. We're going to add in about a 1/2 cup of rice vinegar. Here we go. I'm making a good amount of sauce because I need to cover all of this, which is probably be double what most people would use for their family, because this, again, is a huge batch of it. We're going to add in about around a 3/4 of a cup of soy sauce, because, again, this is what's going to season up the chicken and what's going to bring all those flavors in together. There we go. We want about a tablespoon of sesame oil. So I'm going to use the rest of this bottle, and then I have a little bit on there. This sesame oil, it has a pretty strong flavor on it, so I go a little bit less than a lot of recipes might have because I find I love it, but it is a stronger flavor.
And how do you choose what you cook each day?
A lot of it is when I go grocery shopping, I always like to buy what's on sale, what produce looks good, and kind of shop around that to keep, prices like grocery costs down. And then it's kind of like what I feel like. So, we had leftover rice, and that kind of was our inspiration for today is, oh, I have this leftover rice, so I'm going to have that as our meal. But that's kind of like my idea behind when I'm making like food is what I go look in the fridge and what do I feel like? What do I want? Or if my kids are like, oh, can we have this? And I happen to have the ingredients for it, I'll make that. Or I'll be, looking there and I'm like, oh, that sounds good. I very rarely go to the store and buy something intentionally to cook. I'm more of I buy ingredients and then I kind of cook an idea from it. And it changes. Sometimes I'd be like, oh, I think I might make this. And then I make something completely different from it. I find as long as I don't go with a set idea, then all of my ingredients get used up. I used to go and I'd have a plan, but then I would skip a meal or something like that. And then I wouldn't use those ingredients and then they would go bad. And I don't like to waste. So it's always at the end of the week, what do I have left? What do I need to use? These are my ingredients. And so this is what I need to cook with. There we go. Those are almost done. Okay, we've got our sesame, our sesame oil, we've got our soy sauce, our vinegar. Now we need to add in a good amount of honey because that's going to be the base of our sauce. So we're going to add in about a cup of honey on here. Now you could always sub in, if you don't like honey that much, you could use a little bit of brown sugar in there. I'm going to use, there we go, not quite a cup because I am going to use a little bit of brown sugar because I do love the flavor of brown sugar. So I did about 3/4 of a cup of honey, and then I'm going to do about 1/4 a cup of brown sugar. It will give it a slightly darker color to it. And then we're going to add in about a tablespoon of ginger paste. Now, the tanginess of the vinegar, because again, we used 1/2 a cup of that vinegar, is going to cut through the sweetness of it. So don't think, oh, that's going to be so sweet. That tanginess of that vinegar, those things cut together for it. And so it will be really, really lovely. About 1 tablespoon of vinegar. Now, again, this is a double portion. So this is, or a double serving. So this is to make for about 9 people, a lot of food. So if you're making this at home, you would not be making, if you're not a big family, like you would not be making this much.
Judy sent you a masquerade mask while you were talking.
Thank you. Okay, let's get this done. I think this chicken is just about off, ready to go off. And then we're going to cook up our sauce. And then we should be about ready to go. Let that finish frying here. Let me grab up my pan.
Oh, where do you get the glass measuring cup?
Those are actually from the Target, from the Hearth and Hand, from was it Magnolia, Chip and Joanna Gaines. There we go. I was thinking of that. It's theirs. I love them. They're like so cute. They're like just a nice kind of more like farmhouse take on the like Pyrex ones. I have like a couple of them and I really like them. So let me get that right there. And I think this should be good. These are just about done. And perfect. Nice golden crispy. And that's a nice thing about them. Even though they look light in color, they've got a nice kind of crispy edge to them. Once they cool off, they get a little bit darker in color. But that's that nice cornstarch and flour kind of coating on it. There we go. Put a good amount of chicken up here. We're going to make it to the side, and then we're going to whip up our sauce, which actually is going to take like no time at all, which is really wonderful about it is once you get past this part, then you're just about done. I'm going to add, we'll add this. Oops, right. Let me grab. I'll set this right here. Let's start heating this up, my pan. We're going to add just a little bit of butter. You can add oil too, just a little bit to kind of saute up our garlic here. You want the cook kind of crisp up the garlic to bring out that flavor. There we go. And once that garlic is done crisping up, we're going to add in our green onions here. And let me get a little spoon and taste it, see if I want to add any more Japanese barbecue sauce in here. We'll add a pinch more, and then we'll do a little bit of garlic salt and then our green onions. So a little swirl more, because again, we've got a good amount of rice here. That should be good. And then I always do a little bit of garlic salt because that garlic salt adds a secondary type of saltiness that you don't quite get with the Japanese barbecue sauce because it's not as salty as it is on there. But a light sprinkle hits it a little bit differently. And perfect. And then let's get our green onions. We'll dice these up. Some of these will also go into our main dish as well. This one's kind of big, so we'll slice them down. And then our garlic should be ready, so we can put our sauce in. Then we'll make our slurry with a little bit of water and cornstarch. And once our honey and our brown sugar have kind of dissolved, then we'll be ready to toss in our slurry on there. Okay, let's pop these in.
What's the best kind of rice to use for stir fry?
So you either want to use day-old rice, and this is jasmine rice that is day-old on here. You don't want to use fresh cooked rice because it will be mushy in your stir fry. You can also use frozen sticky rice. I found that works really, really well on there because it's already pre-cooked up, so it cooks really well. Okay, let's get our sauce in here. Put it on here. Give it a good stir. I'm going to let it heat up. And while this is heating, I'm going to put a little bit of water in here, and we're going to make a slurry, which is mixing cornstarch and water together. So that will be used to thicken up our sauce so that it clings to our chicken. And then we can heat everything. It will heat it all together and it will stick. You want a good amount of our cornstarch in here. You don't want to just drop cornstarch into the base because then you'll just kind of have a cornstarch dumpling in there. But we'll make this and then we'll pour in little by little until we get the thickness that we want. But you should have a nice kind of thick slurry like this. Once this comes to a nice kind of little boil, and then we'll be able to add in our sauce, our slurry into it, and then it should thicken up on there. And then we'll add in our sesame seeds and our green onions, and we'll be ready to serve up. There we go. On that, and then let me grab a little spoon to give it a nice taste. Here, we got one right here. Delicious.
And what do you have in the measuring cup?
So in there and right here, I have cornstarch and water, which we will use to thicken up our slurry. Got a little tickle in my throat. It's the vinegar. When it cooks off, it like steams you with a little vinegar steam and it gets you. Okay, bring this temperature down just a smidge. We're gonna add in the slurry. Don't just dump it in all at once because you don't know how much you're actually gonna need. You're gonna add in a little bit at a time. We'll mix it in there of your nice heat, and then once it's gotten to the thickness that you want, then you can stop. There we go. Get our heat going. I'm going to turn up just a smidge more. And I'm going to turn my fried rice because we're just about done here. And there you go. You can already start to see it thickening up there into this nice kind of sticky sauce. You see how it's already starting to get nice and thick? Wonderful. Add just a smidge more over here. Beautiful. And like just mix it all the way around. I don't want to leave any of it runny because I want it to really coat up the chicken. I don't want it to make the chicken soggy, but I want the chicken to stay crispy on there. But look at that nice thick sauce. We're going to toss our chicken in, then we'll coat it with sesame seeds and green onions. So I turned off my heat. And just pop your chicken. This is all that crispy chicken. I'll grab my tongs. We'll coat it up. And this is where all that flavor's coming through. So we made a good amount of sauce because we have a good amount of chicken here.
And can you go over the sauce one more time?
So the sauce is a mixture of soy sauce, honey, a little brown sugar, ginger, rice vinegar, and garlic, and kind of cook those up. And then you're going to add a little bit of a slurry, which is cornstarch and water. So it's just a lovely kind of sweet and savory sauce. But see how it seemed like a lot of sauce, but now that once you got it, you've just got this perfect amount. And then we're going to top it with our sesame seeds for our honey sesame chicken here. Now, if you want to, you can always toast up your sesame seeds. That gives them a nuttier flavor to it. But I also like mine just plain. If you have black sesame seeds, those also work well. But we're going to sprinkle our sesame seeds over it. Gives it, again, a little bit of a nutty flavor to it. A little bit of sesame seeds go a long way. You don't need a whole lot. And then, of course, our green onions add, again, a little bit of extra freshness that work really well in this dish. Give this a nice toss, kind of coat it up. And voila, you've got our delicious sesame chicken. And let's get ready to serve up.
D-Mac sent you a gift.
Well, thank you, D-Mac. We appreciate that. Well, let me grab our plate. And slide this over.
Real quick, are the sesame seeds just for garnish?
They actually add a little bit of a nutty flavor to it, so they enhance the flavor to it. You can bring out more nuttiness by toasting it if you want to, but we have sesame oil in there, so they add a crunch and a little bit of a nutty flavor. So they do more than just a garnish, but yes, they are also a garnish on top of it. So a little bit of both, but enhances flavor. Okay, let me grab. Got some spoons. I got my shovel. Let's get ready to serve up dinner. Okay, for dinner today, we have our Spam fried rice that is full of carrots, onions, green onions, garlic, eggs, and Spam, which is a wonderful ingredient. You just adds that perfect bit of savoriness. And we seasoned it with Japanese barbecue sauce. And then we're going to top it with our sesame honey chicken. We coated our chicken with a cornstarch and flour mixture, fried them off, and then we made this lovely honey sesame sauce that has brown sugar, honey, soy sauce, rice vinegar, ginger in it. And it's just this lovely, tangy, but sweet, but savory deliciousness. Perfect little, Chinese dinner at home. Well, and we also baked up our breakfast loaf for tomorrow. It's full of blueberries, cranberries, walnuts, cherries, pecans, pumpkin seeds, and sunflower seeds. Perfect little breakfast loaf. Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us here. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I try to do live cooking shows every single day, kind of show you what we're making for our family and hopefully teach you guys something along the way. Again, we do upload all of our videos to the link on our page. So if you ever want to recreate any of these recipes at home, you can just go to that page and search for what we made. So our honey sesame chicken and our spam fried rice. And you can always watch and cook along with me again. We also have a link to our Amazon storefront that has all of our different cooking gear and gadgets in it. I've got my all-clad pans in there, my hex-clad, my knives, cutting boards, all my stuff that I use for my sourdough in there as well. But again, thank you guys so much for joining us here. Don't forget to like and subscribe.